Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Barn on 11970, and thank you as always for watching my video. All right, guys, I want to get into a little bit more about the legal name so people can understand where this is coming from. Because this part that we've discovered, and I mean we doesn't mean me, I didn't discover it, a whole bunch of people did. You have to understand that when you enter a court, you have already been considered guilty. Let me explain why. Because when it comes to admiralty law, this part affects the whole world because admiralty law is in effect everywhere. This is it in a nutshell. If you have a passport, a birth certificate, a driver's license, if you've ever registered to vote, if you've ever paid taxes, if you have any kind of government document, the name that's on any of those things which you think is not you. I know that's hard to understand, but like I said in the other video that I made, if you have a boat, let's say my name is John Doe, and I'm on a boat that I have named John Doe, written in capital letters. Does that mean I am that boat because we have the same name? No. So what they've done is they've created a fictional character, a corporation, and you know that because in law, anything in all capital letters is a corporation. That's why you look at Exxon, look at McDonald's, Burger King, Ford Motor Company. They are always in all capital letters. When you're born, and I'm not going to get into the full details because you can watch the other video and I'll post a link so people can get to it if they haven't seen it. Long story short, when you're born, they give you a false name. They basically they take your DNA from the placenta, and this is something new. They didn't have to do this hundreds of years ago. So the people that are on the right track, and I appreciate that question, when they said, well, they didn't have the DNA evidence 100 years ago. Well, you're right about that, but back then nobody knew about this stuff. You couldn't get the information out. Most people couldn't even read or write, so you didn't even need that level. Now that we're smarter and more sophisticated and have things like the internet, they add to what they do to entrap us and make it, for every one thing we learn, they try and one us up. So keep that in mind. But you have to understand your identification that you have in your pocket, if it's in all capital letters, which for probably 98% of the world it is, that is not you. You just think it's you because it says your name. It's like having the boat with a name that is exactly like yours. That doesn't mean you are now the boat. So when I talk about the fact of the ship and the vessel and everything, I'm not talking literally. This is all figuratively, because when they take your DNA evidence, they are now holding on to physical evidence of who you are to prove who you are in a court of law. Now, when I talk about them taking the placenta, I don't mean they take gallons of buckets of people's afterbirth and store it in some file. I mean, you could literally take a whole country's worth of DNA and put it in this bottle. So they're not taking gallons of this stuff. They're just extracting the DNA. But you have to understand that it doesn't matter, and this is the newest stuff that I've learned that kind of puts the puzzle together, that when you go into their court system, you are already guilty. Now, there are times where you can get off, but you want to be careful about that. A lot of people have been thrown in jail because they don't know what's really happening. The fact is you're committing fraud against yourself, because whether you know something is illegal or not does not matter in the court of law. Like, you can get pulled over for doing 75, and you tell the cop, well, I didn't know you couldn't drive 75. Do you think they're going to say, oh, okay, you didn't know, go ahead, have a nice day? No, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So it doesn't matter what you say. And some people can, end up, they have a nice judge or an ignorant judge or one that's not well versed or one that's just so busy they don't have time. So they might let a few people go. But do you want to risk being the one that gets thrown in jail because you don't understand what citizen means, what a person means, and that you are that? I don't care if you say, well, let's just reject the name. I understand where people are going, and you're on the right path. But please understand, it's the actual name that you are using that is not you when you present it in a government ID. It looks like you, and you've been told it's you. But how many things have politicians lied about, and you find out that it really was a lie? So please understand what we're doing, and I'm going to give this information once I get it and learn it, is we're trying to find out the way to get that DNA back, because it's all about salvage. It's all about reclaiming what we didn't know was there, because how do you reclaim something that you didn't know existed? So when I talk about abandoning the ship, it's meant to be figuratively, but you have to understand, it doesn't matter if you don't believe it or not, or don't agree. The fact is, if you have any form of government ID, if you've ever used a credit card, if you've ever opened a bank account, if you've ever done anything that involves a passport or voting or anything, you are in that corrupt system. Now, it varies from country to country because they don't want to make it easy. If every country did the same thing, well, if one person figured it out, then everybody can get out of it. So they make it a little different from country to country. But under Admiralty law, it's pretty much the same. So please keep this in mind. I understand this is frustrating. Believe me, I know. Nobody wants out of the system more than I do. But we have to take our time with it. As soon as I get the information from all these other people, the person that was going to try and help me today, he's writing up stuff as we speak. He didn't have time to talk to me today, so it's going to be later in the week. It could take a couple of weeks, could take a month. But in the grand scheme of things, we are close to the finish line. I want people to understand that. So if you're about to, and one of my subscribers emailed me saying they're going to get a traffic ticket taken care of, and I said that might be a battle you just want to let them win right now. It's not worth potentially getting thrown in jail for something that ultimately costs you $50 or $60. And I understand when people say things, we have the right to travel. Well, if you have an ID that comes from the government, if you've had a bank account, used a credit card, passport, any of that stuff, if you have a birth certificate, you do not have the right to travel under their law, because in 1871, and between 1863 and 1864, when they created the 14th and 15th Amendment and legally defined the word person and the word citizen, if you declare yourself a U.S. citizen, and declare means if you have any of those things, you don't have to say, yay, I'm a citizen. But if you have any of those things, you fall under their jurisdiction, which means you give up your sovereignty rights to get the benefits of working for that corporation known as the United States or whatever country you're living in. So please understand, I know when people want their free rights and they think they can just claim sovereignty, and they wonder why so many people have been thrown in jail for this. So this is the next level where we've gotten deeper. It's going to take time, but please understand, if you go to court and you tell them that you have the right to travel, and you have an ID, and you have a passport, or you have a credit card, or you've ever voted, or any other government document, you are under legal definition since 1871 in the United States of America and the United States Corporation. I don't know how it is in other countries when it was done. So you're going to have to check your own individual countries for that. But here in the United States Corporation, which is what the Constitution is since 1871 under this corporation, if you have any kind of government ID, if you get any health benefits, any welfare, passport, any of this stuff, you are under their jurisdiction, which means you do not, under their system, have the right to freely travel, no matter how much you argue it, because you're basing it on something you don't know, and you're going to hurt yourself. So I'm going to keep this one short. Play that other video 100 times if you have to get it. I know 49 minutes may seem long, but in the grand scheme of things, the reason I made it that long is because for me to find all that information, I had to find a little bit here, a little bit there. Another person talks about this part. Another person talks about that part. So what I did was I combined everything that I learned into one video. So you don't have to go from video to video trying to search for the puzzle pieces. I put the puzzle together, and I left it as a video form, so this way you could watch it over and over again. So keep that in mind, guys. If you don't know what you're talking about, and for a long time I thought I knew what I was talking about, but I knew only certain parts, you're going to get burned. So I know we want this done tomorrow. Be patient, because believe me, I could potentially lose my house. I have a court date, well, potential court date on December 9th for my home. I want to learn this as much as anybody else, and I promise you I will pass it along. The one thing I had to learn today, and this is something I want to thank all the haters and trolls for, you guys ended up teaching me about myself that I have to learn to let go of the ego. So when I made those videos earlier today, it made me really stop and think about the fact that I cannot just pick and choose who can get it. Everybody can get it, whether they like me or not. It's more important that the information gets out. And that's why I ask for people to share this stuff. It's not because, I want everybody to see my face. If people want to remix the video, if they want to make their own, as long as the information gets out, that's all that matters. Because when one person does it and one more person is awakened, that's one less person that gets manipulated. So please, if you have to watch that video 100 times, memorize it, learn, because you're not a free sovereign citizen if you have any form of government identification. Under the law, which is what's going to happen, that's what they're going to talk about when you go to court. Under their law, you are subject to their jurisdiction. That is one of the prices to pay for being a U.S. citizen or whatever citizen of whatever country you're living in. So please, learn this. All right, guys, hopefully this helps a little bit. I know the new people, this stuff may seem a little unbelievable, but trust me, you don't have to believe in the truth for it to still be true. Keep that in mind. Don't push this away because it will affect everybody. And the more people that stay away from it, the more hold that they have and continue to rape and pillage everybody out there. It's time we take this back. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Peace.